Hi, I'm Bearcroft. Today I'm going to show you how to create a simple African landscape, sunset landscape with a mother and baby elephant silhouette and an old tree in the background too. Now I can create really effective and sometimes dramatic pictures using silhouettes, usually dark silhouettes on light backgrounds like this one. This is cut out on black card of a mother and baby elephant, as you can see. Just stuck this on with a bit of masking tape onto a box canvas. You can use cardboard, of course, anything, paint it white, paint it whatever colour you like. I think the most common way that we view these silhouettes is against a white background, and why not? They do look very dramatic. However, I think if we can just change the background a little bit and then put our silhouettes back on top again, you'll see we can make a big difference to that. So let's just remove mother and baby momentarily. We'll put that down somewhere safe. So here's our blank canvas now. What I want to do is basically create an African sunset, and we can do that very easily just using standard, fairly cheap acrylic paint that you can buy from virtually any hobby store, online and so on. It doesn't have to be expensive. You could use poster paint, anything like that. It doesn't have to be professional or even student quality paints. Just anything you can get hold of, really. So this is magenta, just slightly purpley red. This is going to go at the top, and I always suggest don't put too much on too soon. What you can always do is add some more paint later if you run out, but the point being is that you don't want to waste it, even if it's cheap. Use a little bit at a time, and the great thing about putting your paint directly on the canvas like this is there is no wastage. So what you put on the canvas stays on the canvas, not on your palette, and therefore if it stays on your palette and gets dry, you can't use it again, therefore it's wasted. So I'll use the orange next, and just squeeze that down to about there. So I'm looking at about a third of each, about a third of the magenta, about a third of the orange, and finally about a third of the lemon yellow, which is this one. And push all the way across there. It doesn't matter how messy or otherwise it looks at this stage. Of course, next thing we're going to do is take a 1.5 inch decorating brush, nothing fancy here, and then just start to spread the whole thing across the canvas, blending as we go. So it's going to be lighter at the bottom with the lemon yellow, then gradually go into orange, and then finally into the darker pink. So I'll start around here. And start to bring orange into the yellow. I always put some more yellow on down the bottom here, so don't worry about that. And pick up whatever paint you can, and just wiggle that into the canvas if you're using a canvas. There's that textured surface, so just use our brush to wiggle it in, or press that paint using the bristles into the canvas. Then we don't have to worry about the lower part too much, because that's where the silhouette's going to go. And continue to take that up into the orange. Into that pink, or pinky purple, and you see we're covering quite easily now. All the way down, and then what I want to do is just introduce some of the yellow back into the darker part at the top to give us a hint of clouds almost. So again, before it dry, because you want to blend it a little bit, take the lemon yellow and just add some of that higgledy-piggledy sporadically here and there into the orangey red part of the sky. Maybe take a clean brush this time. This is a 1-inch decorating brush. And then we'll just gently create some softer yellow streaks. Maybe a slight angle there that gives an impression of a sunset sky with the golden clouds having picked up that reflection from the sun. And then, if need be, you can do a little bit more. This creates a lot more interest in the sky, maybe a little bit more down here. Maybe a couple of bigger clouds there. You can already see what they represent. They kind of represent those clouds, but we need to soften them a little bit. So a little bit more gentle with the brush this time. Don't overbrush it. There we go, just a little wispy hint. It gives a nice, soft sunset sky. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is allow that to dry. Take about 5 minutes or so, because we've got quite a lot of paint on there. So not too long. So we'll give that a few minutes to dry. Time to wash the brushes in the meantime. And then we'll come back and we'll maybe paint a tree on there. Okay, so now our background sky is dry enough. What we can do then is we'll paint a bit of a tree on this side, I think, before we put our silhouette back on. So we're just going to use lamp black acrylic paint with a 1/2-inch flat brush, which can, if you turn it to the side, can be used like a thin blade brush, and that's perfect for painting trees, as you'll see. So take a little bit of our black, both sides of the brush, and we'll start off with maybe a thick or thicker trunk, like that. Okay, if it's not going on too easily, then just add a little bit of water to your brush, just a tiny amount, just to loosen the paint a little bit. I'll do that now. That makes it flow easier. So start off with the trunk, and then we can use the blade part of that brush for creating thinner branches. So again, just add a little bit more water to that, just to loosen up that black paint. There we go. And just the best way to get this gnarly tree approach is just to move your brush from side to side with your fingers like that. Start off there, give it a little wiggle as you go along. That gives you a lovely sort of gnarled, old look to the tree. And some of these trees may have been there hundreds of years. And the African plains, standing out there all alone. There we go. So wiggle. All you need to do is wiggle it like that, from side to side, as you move the brush across that old, gnarled tree look. A little bit more water again, just to keep the paint flying, because acrylic paint does dry very, very quickly on your brush as well. So if it starts to dry too much on your brush, then it won't flow very well. So just add a little touch of water again, bit by bit. We'll have those trees in Africa tend to grow more or less horizontal, like that. That gives us a nice sort of frame for our silhouette. Fade out about here. Maybe a little bit more gnarled, old shape to the trunk. That's the trunk of the tree, not the elephant trunk, of course. And then some leaves. The best way to do patches of leaves on there is use a bit of natural sponge. Any kind of sponge will do, but I prefer these natural sponges because the texture is less uniform. And what we're going to do is dip that into the black paint. So get a little bit of coverage on all sides. So get different textures. And gently, what we're going to do is gently apply that onto our tree. So that will give us lots and lots of individual leaves. If you press on too hard, even a natural sponge, what you're going to get is all those shapes will get compressed together into one mass. So gently, if you find that your paint isn't coming off too well, then you just need to refresh the paint on your sponge rather than press on any harder. So a little bit by a little bit. And if you have a bit of natural sponge, of course, you're going to get different shapes on different sides. Twist and turn your hand while you're doing that. Again, twisting and turning your wrist or your hand while you're painting always gives you much more natural looking results. And gently, gently until you decide you've got enough leaves on your tree. And little sections like this. We're generally following the shape of the tree, going sort of horizontal almost. Of course, naturally, some of your bunches of leaves will be darker, some will be fainter, depending on how much paint you've got on the sponge at any one time, which gives you a more natural, realistic looking tree, I guess, because they're not all going to be uniform in tone. Some will be fainter, some will be darker naturally. And we'll make it so our mother and baby elephant are heading towards the shelter of the tree to settle down for the evening, or settle down for the night under the safety of the tree. So that will do, I think. Let's finish off this branch, a couple of branches on the right hand side. Yeah. So now we're ready to put our silhouette back on. Remember, you can paint your silhouette on, or you can simply draw it onto a piece of black card or black paper and cut it out and stick it on. Or if you don't feel that confident in drawing your subjects, your elephants or whatever the subject may be, then you can download lots and lots of free to use images from the internet. Maybe download it, print it out, paint it black once you've cut it out, or trace it onto a piece of black card and then cut it out. Whatever you want to do, whatever makes life easy for you. So now we'll just stick that back on here. A bit of masking tape. If you are using a cutout silhouette and you want to make that a permanent feature of your canvas, then glue it on. Use an all-purpose glue. Stick that onto your prepared canvas, and then once your painting is dry, then just give it all a couple of generous coats of a varnish, matte or a satin varnish or a shiny varnish, whatever you prefer, and that will help to seal your cutout silhouette onto your canvas or your sheet of card, whatever it is. Hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more easy atmospheric paintings like this, plus lots of other content of course, and we'll see you next time.